Time. We'll try to have a conversation for about 40 minutes and we'll have some time for questions if you have any. So we are here to discuss on a topic called elephants and the future of our lands. I like to call it our shared lands because we both have very similar requirements pertaining to nature and spaces, and we have to share this land between both of the species. So I welcome our distinguished panelists. They bring a diverse set of expertise here. Anupam sir has been with the NGO sector for many years now. Vaishnavi ma'am brings in a very fresh perspective of corporates engaging with communities to reduce conflict. Seema is pioneering a lot of research on bioacoustics and understanding elephant behavior. And Bhaskar Da is working very closely with communities. Before we begin, I'd just like to take 2 minutes to talk to you about the theme of this whole workshop, where we talk about the future of the third pole. So when we talk about the third pole, we mean an icy area. This is the third pole. Of course, the Himalayas are considered the third pole. But we always think about the snow-clad mountains. We talk about the glaciers, and whatever leads to there are, of course, rivers, and which is how elephants are indirectly connected to the third pole. So it is the rivers that flow out from the Himalaya, which make up very ecosystem, a very functional and productive ecosystem like the Brahmaputra floodplains, and which is where most of our elephants are found. And it's also the most productive region for humans. So we are also found, our population is obviously much higher here than in the mountains. But elephants are not just indirectly related to the third pole. The northeast is probably the only place where elephants are found in mid-elevation Himalayas as well. The other location is Bhutan. But over here, we have places in Arunachal where the red panda and the Asian elephant share the same landscape. They use the same routes as well. So the third pole is not a far-fetched idea. We need to think about elephants. They are both directly connected as well, not just indirectly. So they also do a lot of the earlier session talked about engineering. They are, of course, we are the ultimate engineers of this planet, but they're also the forest engineers who do a lot of seed dispersal. They also convert a lot of biomass into nutrition for our grasslands and forests. So they do turn around the system a lot wherever they exist. And there are studies that show that wherever mega herbivores exist, like elephants, the amount of invasive species like lantana and all is quite limited. They suppress the spread of invasive species. So our relationship, of course, with elephants is very old. Goes back to centuries. The Gupta Empire in central India, then we have the Home King Empire in Assam, who have led studies in 18th and 18th century that not only tell us about what elephant as a species is, but they also go into the details of individualities of elephants. So the Hasti Vidyanama book is the Home's gift to the future of humanity, that is us. But we are also continuing to know elephants in a lot of ways. We are doing satellite-based telemetry to understand how elephants use the landscape. We are using bioacoustics to learn from elephants about what they can tell us about how they use the landscape. So welcome again once again, and this session will try to unpack some socio-ecological dimensions of humans and elephants sharing the space. We'll talk a little bit about governance as well, about how the government, forest departments, and private sector and all can, lead, work towards mitigating conflict, and of course, community-led conservation and resilience. So, should we begin? So, I'd like to start with Dr. Anupam Sharma, because we wanted the Northeast-wise and especially the Brahmaputra floodplains-wise perspective in elephants before we narrow down our subjects. Sir, can you tell us a little bit about the fact is that elephants in Assam travel very vast distances. So can you tell us a little bit about connectivity, especially in Assam with respect to how the elephants use the landscapes? So whether it is rivers, riverine islands, tea plantations, something on that.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Balipara Foundation and Guwahati University for giving us this platform to come to this August gathering, and I'm really privileged to be here. And this is, as my friend Rakin mentioned a little while ago, that he's from this university. I also, proudly say that I am also from this university. So yeah, maybe 30 plus years back, we left this university, but we do be back here. And thank you, Anirudh, for this question. You see, elephants, it's a large mammal. We all know it's a large mammal. So their requirement is also large. They need lot of resources, lot of food, lot of water, and they need, vast space to fulfill their, biological functions. We cannot, have a small population, maybe 10 elephants in a square kilometer area, because they need large space to roam around. That is why they are actually called the engineers of forest, and they perform a lot of, ecological functions. So in Assam, I am from Tezpur, my hometown is Tezpur. And from my childhood, I know that, during the harvesting season, this is the time when elephants come out. Because we also used to have, farmlands close to Nagari National Park, where it invariably gets raided by elephants, and we used to get very little, harvest. So that is how my interface with the elephants, how I know elephants, because we used to go to see elephants during my childhood. So that was very seasonal. But now, as I grew up in the landscape and now working with conservation organization for the last more than 20 years time, so I know how the elephants have actually started, using the landscape, the larger canvas. Not only the Tezpur or Nagaon like that, but starting from what our colleagues from Bhutan say, the foothills of Bhutan. From that area, and floodplains of Brahmaputra going to Arunachal mountains. And as Aniruddha has mentioned, we have recorded elephants 3,000 plus meter altitude. So elephants also go to the mountain. It's not like that they are only using the floodplains. So elephants are actually, traveling all this huge landscape. And as I speak, I think we have more than 5,500 elephants in Assam, the latest count. Whatever it is, but we have a sizable population of elephants, and they need large space. And if you have noted, most of our protected areas in Assam are along the river Brahmaputra, starting from Dibru-Soikwa, then our Kaziranga, Lauka, Burachapuri, Orang, Pabitra, like that. It's all along the river Brahmaputra, and that invariably proves that actually large mammals or animals, they're using this Brahmaputra river as actually migratory routes. They travel from east to west or west to east like that. And not only that, we have also I think evidences that actually these large mammals like elephants, rhino, tigers, they actually use this, the riverine routes, actually the tributaries of Brahmaputra. Like a few years back, one tiger, which was photo captured in Kaziranga, got photo captured in Nameri. And definitely tiger didn't, fly. So it took the river course. And Tezpur almost every year, Tezpur see the incursion of some large mammals, be rhino, elephants, tiger. Even last couple of weeks back also, there was an information about a tiger in the riverine shore area. So elephants, particularly elephants among the large mammals, are using these river courses very efficiently. They are very good swimmer. Even there is many of you probably have seen or heard about it. There is a big herd of elephants now roaming from Panidihing and further east towards Kaziranga. They keep moving in the riverine areas. Imagine they spend a lot of time around that. So riverine landscape is a place where they, prefer. Even the elephants from the mountains, from Arunachal or from the foothills of Himalayas, they tend to come to Brahmaputra every year. That is the seasonal movement we have witnessed. So this is how the elephant's ecology been, and we have very good evidence that Anirudh has mentioned, we have started using radio telemetry to, track their movements. And this has exactly proved what I have said. So now initially we had some very anecdotal information, but now we have very evidence-based scientific information how they have been using the landscape. Of course, it's a very piecemeal effort. It's going on now in Assam, but more the robust system we can adopt, it will give very solid information about the elephants movement. But yes, now we have more or less a very good idea about the elephants movement along this landscape. Thank you.
Elephants are long ranging and uh, land parcels are divided into how whatever the jurisdiction is, whether it's the state forest department, protected area, reserve forest. What do you think is the role of stakeholders in ensuring that the connectivity remains, which is not only pertaining to reserve forests or protected forests, but also tea plants, the private lands, revenue areas. What do you think is how do we bring together various stakeholders, not just the government, into protecting our connectivity for everyone?
Yes, elephant, they don't recognize the landowner's it. They don't know. For them, it's a habitat they can use. They definitely avoid certain areas where they are treated badly. Basically, if they take some lethal methods. Some people sometimes they take lethal methods to stop elephants movement. So those places they generally try to avoid. But otherwise, they are there in the as you have said, they are there in the protected areas and the reserve forests. In the tea gardens, mostly, most of you have probably seen a lot of videos coming up from Golaghat and Balipara areas where elephants are there in the tea gardens, and people are chasing elephants are chasing. So this is the regular, what I would say, is what is happening regularly now. But yes, we have in India we have a Wildlife Protection Act, so it gives direction what needs to be done and how certain things needs to be done. We have very well laid out procedures even for the project elephants from the project tiger also how wildlife needs to be treated, how elephant needs to be treated. But apart from that, we as a citizen also have larger responsibility of securing our heritage animal. Because elephants are there in everywhere. It is in our culture, it is in our religion. It's a part of our social life. In every story books, probably we have experienced elephants. So it's not an alien in our society, in our social mindset. So it is our social responsibility also to give them the space in our society. We are living in a shared space, right? So elephant is a large mammal, and if we really want to secure elephants, 30,000 elephants in India with 1.4 billion people, so we should be accommodative as a, what I would say, we have that responsibility. So in the forest where they should be there, but it's not like that. We have more elephants outside the protected areas in India. The latest estimate is showing more elephants are there outside the protected areas in India than what they are inside the protected area. So outside the protected areas means where? Definitely they're in the tea gardens. They are more evident in the other land uses. But we have to have that space in our development agenda, development aspirations also, so that we can secure their movement corridors. For example, now probably you have also heard about this. There is a huge infrastructure coming up, linear infrastructure along the roads, Kaziraga, and it is specifically made to secure elephant movements or wildlife movement like that, particularly movement of large mammals. So in many of such large infrastructure, particularly linear infrastructure, which is actually disturbing the large mammals migratory routes or the large mammals habitat, we need to adopt all the safeguards mechanisms, safeguards measures. Those are there. Already there are proper guidelines with the government of India and the state government also. So those needs to be followed, and what the Wildlife Protection Act says, So all this are I think we should, follow strictly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As a non-governmental sector, our perspective, I mean, we both are from WWF. Our perspective on elephant conservation involves engagement with a lot of stakeholders. So, of course, our primary stakeholder is the forest department, it's the communities. But we also have Vaishnavi ma'am with us on the dais, and I wanted to ask her what kind of initiatives the corporate can take when it comes specifically to elephants and human-elephant conflict. And why do I emphasize on human-elephant conflict is because if you've seen the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha question and answer sessions, uh, quite often than not, a lot of people are curious about what's happening, how many elephants are dying, how many tigers are dying, how many people are getting killed because of conflict. And even if this is not debated, it always reflects in the question and answer sessions. And these statistics matter to us a lot. So there are private players, there are corporations who are trying to work on this. And Vaishnavi ma'am, I wanted to ask you a question about Tata Power's initiative Kajal Sanrakshana. That is specific to, I think, Odisha. And what kind of technological interventions are you doing involving with the communities or the department to, reduce accidental death of elephants?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I think, before I get into it, I think a little bit of a segue of why we got involved in the first place. If we look at the leading causes of death for elephants, and we can go back and look at all these government reports that are available, one of the causes that are indicated are electrocution. And electrocution can be both accident and it can be deliberate. Since we were taking up the distribution business, which is electricity comes from the grid, and then it is distributed and brought into each of the households where the metering is done, right? So that is electricity distribution. That involves a huge network of wires which carry high voltage electricity across transmission lines and distribution lines. And what we realized were there were certain issues which were arising, both accidental and deliberate, where there were instances where elephant deaths were happening because of electrocution. Now, as an organization, Tata Power has been around for more than 100, that's close to 110 years. About 109, 110 years. And nature and community has always been at the center of what we do. And we run programs like Mahasi Conservation, which are 5 decades plus. So when we came into Odisha, we were thinking hand to heart, what is it that we can do to avoid this particular issue? And like Anirudh was mentioning, this is also something which is debated vehemently. It comes in media. It is something which is a matter of public interest litigation in High Court. So there are many dimensions to this. We stepped back and then we said that we will do a pilot. In 2022, we did an elaborate study in Akul and Dhenkanal regions. This is the Hindol range, which was the hotspot of elephant conflict in Odisha. And after spending adequate time there, and about 2,000 households, there was a survey. So the leading causes of these conflicts were identified. Some of them were infrastructure related, when people were going out in the dark in the morning and evening for, open defecation, and they didn't have the infrastructure to at their own residences to be able to do their ablutions. I think that was one place where the conflict was happening. Second place was the harvest season, like I think Anupam sir was also mentioning. Harvest season, the fields are ripe and food is food for anybody. So there is the temptation for elephants to come in and probably partake of the harvest that is there. So some of these conflicts we identified. So what is the solution that we set out to put forth? I think this is a project that we run with the Forest and Wildlife Department of Odisha firstly, because any intervention requires governmental support and cooperation. We got an NGO to work on the ground. And there were 3 areas that we wanted to work on. One is community enablement and education. Elephants are very interesting because people's reaction to elephants spreads from reverence, where we do puja when elephants reach, to one of absolute fear. There will be firecrackers thrown because people don't know how to react, right? So the spectrum of reactions that you get from the community is very, very vast. People don't oftentimes know what are the precautions to take or how to respond to a particular situation. So community education and enablement was one of the biggest pillars that we wanted to work on. And we also work with Gajasakhis, who are a network of people who are local to the villages there, to do the education with them. The second, pillar that we wanted to work on is infrastructure update. So, a state is a very, very vast geography, and any sagging wire over transformers, over lines could cause issues. So we wanted to get information network so that this infrastructure update can be done. So joint patrolling, etc., was done between the forest department, our technical teams, and the communities. So there was a system and the ecosystem of WhatsApp messages, early indicators of what could be potential areas where there would be electrocution deaths, etc., and that information was flowing back so that we can prevent any accidental death from happening. The third area, which is where your question came, and I think I've taken a very long segue to reach where you've said, is the technological interventions that are possible for corporates or other entities to engage in this particular space. Very interesting thought, and I think, the first time I heard it, it blew my mind. We are talking about elephant corridors, right? These are essentially the highways or roadways that elephants, take to reach from, in their memory, from one feeding spot or a watering spot to another feeding spot and a watering spot. Now, we humans have decided that the land belongs to us, and we say this field is mine, and I will fence it. Either I will put a normal fence, I will put a solar fence. Sometimes the solar fence is connected to live electricity, which means that it could lead to death. Imagine a landscape where you have in the entire grid put small boxes of solar fence. It's like a maze for a herd of elephants. When they start at a particular spot and they want to go to another spot, which in their traditional memory is places for them to get food and water, and they have such a maze, they have no alternative. They have to come to the highways that we have made, right? Because those don't have fences around them. So even when we are doing interventions, technological interventions, they have to be done with appropriate planning so that we don't create this kind of a issue that's not really helping solve the man-elephant conflict. You're just protecting a very, very small parcel of land in that case. So early warning systems are a very important way to solve for this problem. We have put in camera traps. We track the movement of herds, etc., and we work very closely with the forest department so that the information can be shared timely. The second thing that we do is that we have put trackers on the lead elephants so that typically it's a matriarchal society. So whenever the lead elephant is moving, then the herd follows along with. So you're able to get a tentative sense of where the herd is going to move. So that's the other thing. And the third thing that we are looking at is solutions which allow for peaceful coexistence. So are there other kinds of fences? Are there more responsible ways of creating that demarcation for safety for human life without creating harm to the wildlife? So these are some of the areas that we've been working with. We are also trying to look for live wire detection through hand-worn, just like your wristwatch right now can tell you, bring you SMSs and phone calls, etc. There are devices that the forest department and the our technical teams can wear on their hands. So if it's a live exposed wire, it will trigger. There will be a beep. So then they are careful. They find out that live wire and whatever sheathing or preventive measures are required to be taken, that is done. So there are many technological solutions that are really that can be taken into play for preventing this man-animal conflict. But I think the most important thing for us to recognize is that this is a shared space, and for us to declare that we are sole owners is a foolhardy job. I'm happy to state that we started with 3 ranges in Odisha, and right now the government has recognized the work that has happened, the good outcome that has come out of it, and given us 18 additional ranges to work in. So total of 8 districts, pan Odisha, north, south, central, and west. And we are hoping to do good work, but we are scratching the surface because it's a issue which is unique in different geographies. Like Assam, to traditional knowledge, elephants are not great climbers. Traditional knowledge, I think, at least what I've heard till now. But now we are hearing about elephants which are in, elevations, etc. So I think each geography is unique. And at the Tata Group level, the attempt of various Tata Group companies is to try and see if we can adopt certain geographies and work on similar lines so that it is a cohesive and a larger program with a larger impact. So that's I think what corporates can do from a community and coalescing the effort. Base we work with school students. There are a lot of these interventions, little and big, which need to add together. But we are at the start of a journey and we are on a learning curve that we want to stay committed to for the foreseeable future, a decade or two till I think we make good impact.
Thank you, ma'am. Uh, Speaking for Assam, I I'm sure other northeastern states face the same problems with the human conflict, but not quite at the scale that Assam and Odisha, these two states face. Particularly when it comes to accidental death of elephants due to anthropogenic reasons, whether it's train accidents, electrocution. But I do see a lot of similarities between what the Odisha government and the Assam government is doing. So, ma'am, you spoke about Rajasatis, which is, I think, created by the State Forest Department. And Assam is also leading with the creation of, or making the committees who, make sure elephants don't come into farmlands more formal, called Gaja Mitras, which was only recently notified. So that's quite impressive. And we do think that electrocution cases, when it comes to personal farms being fenced with using direct live wires, it is an issue in Assam as well. And everyone still is scratching their heads about how to go about it. And we're still holding meetings and talking to a lot of stakeholders like APTCL to, put a stop to this. Thank you, ma'am. I wanted to bring in a different perspective. So far, we've been talking about how do we direct elephants through corridors, reducing conflict by not letting them enter into human settlements, and it's essentially us telling elephants indirectly to not do this. So, if we speak of fencing, what are fences? Fences are essentially negative reinforcement, right? They get a small shock, and that means that you're not supposed to go there. But we need a perspective on listening to elephants as well, and that's where Seema ma'am comes into picture. So I just wanted to give a small anecdote about this. So I worked in central India, and there's a tiger reserve called Asanapur Tiger Reserve, and the railway line crosses just to the west of the tiger reserve. And most of the population of elephants is to the east of the tiger reserve, and most of the population is on the other side of the railway track. That's on the eastern Chhattisgarh side. And for many years, the elephants have been trying to pass through the railway line. It's just a single railway line, but it is extremely busy because it is a very busy mining route. So every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, a train will be going, either a coal carrying train or a passenger train. So a lot of people have observed that elephants would come, they will put their trunk to the track and they try to listen to the vibrations and then they'll move back because they can sense those sounds. But it so happened during the first COVID lockdown when all our transport was shut down, the elephants actually crossed and they moved into Asanapur Tiger Reserve. And since then, I think 2021, the elephants have crossed into Asanapur and have made Asanapur sort of their home. So elephants do, listen very keenly, but we also have a lot to listen from elephants. So what do you think we can, a very basic question, what do you think we can learn from listening to elephants?
First of all, thank you, Balipara Foundation and Guwahati University for the opportunity, and thank you, Anirudh, for the question. So we were discussing about elephant communication, and that's what my main research and my work is about. But recently I came across this quote by Nishant. A lot of us know Nishant, but yeah, he has written it somewhere and it came like, it's about elephanthood and not personhood. And it's appreciating life for what it is and not for what it is to us. So what right now we are all talking about is to make life, appreciating life for us. How to make it for the farmers. But what about the elephants? And what about them is what we're not discussing. And that's where my perspective of elephant behavior and communication comes into play. When I'm talking about when he was giving, Anirudh was giving the example where they were not crossing. So how many of us knows that elephant produce these low frequency vocalizations, which are very low and which travel very long distances? And this is very similar to what trains produce. So all large bodied speed, like trucks, trains, all of these really large bodied vehicles will produce these sounds. And that's what they're disturbing within their communication systems. And as soon as that disturbance went off, is one of a click, and we could understand that they started crossing. So we are disturbing their environment, their communication systems, their behavior to the extent that we are not able to understand. We just scratched on the elephant behavior part. Even the communication part, we just scratched. There are like 3-4 papers on research of it. When we don't even understand that, I've recently come upon videos of elephants with camera traps, behaving with camera traps. We have put something within their natural ecosystem, which is a camera trap, which is very important to put. But that behavior has been changed because of camera trap. They are behaving differently within that area. And we are not thinking deeply about how elephant behavior is changing because of our land use, land cover being changed, our technological solutions being put into place, and how is it impacting them? We are just thinking, okay, this is, even I work in the technological space because I develop technology on acoustics base and I love the technology, but the implications of technology on elephant behavior is something that I would really, I'm interested in. And I think that there are far more implications of it, which we've not understood. So let's say to understand how our behavior is impacting their behavior is a fundamental question. And that can happen when we listen more closely. A lot of us talk about elephant behavior and it's the most evolving thing. Anupam Da was speaking about it कि पहले हाथी आसाम में चाय बगान में कभी कभी दिखते थे. अभी आसाम में चाय बगान में हाथी रहते हैं. They've changed their behavior. So if they've changed their behavior, they've changed their communication because communication is a part of the behavior. एंड अभी तक तो हमें कम्युनिकेशन के बारे में बहुत बेसिक ही पता है. लाइक ये भी यही पता है कि दे कम्युनिकेट, दे हैव. सो हाउ मेनी ऑफ अस ऐसे हाउ ऑल आपको आपके दोस्त का आवाज पता चलता है कि ये मेरे दोस्त ने कॉल किया था और ये किसी और ने कॉल किया था. सो the same with elephants. Elephants can know from each other because how do they think that they know this? Because each one of us have this vocal cords which vibrate at a particular frequency. So does elephants. We've just started to understand the very basic of elephant communication about individual identification. कि ये behavior में वो लोग ये call करते हैं. So we have to learn a lot more before even thinking about listening. Like we have to listen to them a lot more, and then we can think about how we can develop technology around it better. Thank you.
A quick follow-up question because MOFCC recently released the number of elephants for each state. And now the ranges are quite broad. We have about 4,000 to nearly 6,000 elephants in Assam alone. So these broad estimates are all about, trying to monitor what is the number of elephants and where they are. Since you're leading studies on bioacoustics, and I'm aware of some bioacoustic monitoring tools being used to monitor flock populations, bird populations. Is there a way to incorporate bioacoustics into elephant monitoring? Because simply put, elephants, when they enter forests, they are almost invisible, but they are very vocal animals. So even if we are not able to hear them on a low frequency, I think you can still, make out that they are elephants. So do you envision this as a tool to, which can, in the near future, become one of the tools for monitoring elephants?
So, of course, I envision that bioacoustic monitoring will be the future for monitoring the different species. Also, it can help in right now a lot of places in right now a lot of species, at least places in the northeast of India like Arunachal and Mizoram, where we truly don't know the actual elephant population because of the landscape. There's nothing else because it's very remote. But do we envision that in future, like Mark was talking about technology, that we have so many recorders all across these landscapes, and from that we can able to say that this is the population that of elephants are. Yeah, we will can able to because but that's the future, because we know the calling rate of elephants, that this might be a prediction calling rate. They might call 1 minute, 1 hour, stuff like that. We also know that they form these vision fusion societies because they have to form a fusion society. Within that vision fusion society, they have to vocalize. So they will vocalize because vocalization is a very important part. That's the way that they know कि ये water body जाना है, यहाँ नहीं जाना है, यहाँ पे करना है. That's how their society works. So communication is very important, and with that we'll be able to monitor them very well. Of course, lot of other studies are also not just population dynamics elephants ka, lekin let's say illegal timber felling is happening in an area, or illegal mining has been happening in an area. A lot of these monitoring can be used to determine other factors that are falling apart. Also, there's a study which was done in Africa, and what they were able to do was they were able to make an AI model only for gunshots. Poaching is a very big issue in Africa and in Congo, and they were able to only identify wherever the gunshot happened. So if you can know that the gunshot is there in the vocalization, in the whole recording, and then they can say, okay, this many level of gunshots happened, they can deploy team immediately. And बहुत साल पहले PCCF of Assam had given me a call in like once, and he was like, आपने ऐसे स्टडी के बारे में बात किया है, लेकिन राइनो पोचिंग के लिए ये बहुत यूजफुल है, बिकॉज काजीरंगा में जब राइनो पोचिंग होता है हमें ये नहीं पता होता है कौन से डायरेक्शन से साउंड आया. And he had called and he said, can we do something on acoustics for that matter? Of fact, that can we develop only for gunshots, because it becomes very difficult for people to identify कि कहाँ से आवाज आया. So things regarding that, there are a lot of applications of acoustics. अभी तो हमने we have just started scratched on it, but we've not done so much in detail. But yeah, there are a lot of other applications also as well. Thank you.
We are a very visual species, and even when we do awareness programs, it is mostly through posters, video screenings about conflict management. Thank you, Seema. I wanted to ask Bhaskar the question regarding reaching out to the communities. Communication with people who work for elephant conservation, but also who have to work for conflict mitigation is very crucial, and that's where communities come in. And Bhaskar, you have an experience of engaging with communities, especially in terms of communication. And I wanted to ask if you will be able to tell us a little bit about if there is any gaps in communications when it comes to stopping conflict or reducing conflict, generally for Assam.
Thank you, Anirudh. First of all, I would like to thank Balipara Foundation and Guwahati University for giving me this opportunity. Actually, Anirudh, if you allow me, then I will like to speak in Hindi because many frontline workers are sitting behind.
Yes.
So our topic is forest on their feet, elephant and the future of our lands. So their feet, our lands, we have to protect their feet for our lands. If we have to protect their feet, then we have to protect the elephants. From where we have to protect them? We have to protect them from unnatural death. ये अननेचुरल डेथ क्यों हो रहा है? अननेचुरल डेथ इसलिए हो रहा है क्योंकि ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इज राइजिंग डे बाय डे, एंड ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इज राइजिंग डे बाय डे बिकॉज द कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम इज नॉट अप्रोप्रिएट. अभी तक हम डिपार्टमेंट बोलिए, लोकल पब्लिक बोलिए, या जहां पे ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो रहा है वहां से हम लोग का कम्युनिकेशन थोड़ा सटीक नहीं हो रहा है, इसलिए हम लोग कम्युनिकेशन का प्रॉब्लम है. अगर मान लीजिए जिस एरिया में कम्युनिकेशन का ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का एरिया है उस एरिया में अगर जहाँ पे हाथी निकलता है वहां के लोगों को पता चलता है कि आज शाम को हाथी निकलने वाला है, पास में ही हाथी घूम रहा है, उस समय अगर जो कंसर्न डिपार्टमेंट है, जो कंसर्न एनजीओ है, जो कंसर्न पीपल है, उन लोगों को अगर इंफॉर्मेशन थोड़ा प्रोवाइड किया जाता है तो ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट की तरफ नहीं आएगा, क्योंकि द प्रोसेस द फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट एंड द एनजीओ डू to drive them back to their habitat if they get the information in proper time. प्रॉपर टाइम में इंफॉर्मेशन मिलने से वहां पे जा सकते हैं और उनको ड्राइव बैक कर सकते हैं। पॉइंट 1 वो हो गया। दूसरा है कम्युनिकेशन बाय मास मीडिया, जो हम देखते हैं। अभी पकड़ लीजिए, एक अभी चाय बागान का बात हो रहा था, अभी हम लोग हाल ही में 2019 में गुवाहाटी में एक हाथी निकला है। पंजाबड़ी एरिया में सातगांव एरिया में, आमचिंग एरिया में, ये इस जगह में हाथी का घूमना फिरना होता रहता है। अगर एक न्यूज वहां पे चला दिया जाए, हाथिया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट सृष्टि करी से, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, द वर्ड इज वेरी नेगेटिव। When you use that word contact sixty percent, why he is creating contract? He is not creating contract. He just came out from his habitat. He will have something and he will go back. We will have to stop the negative words by mass media. Secondly, ये जो हाथी निकल के आता है, इसका रूट कॉज क्या है? अभी जो है हैबिटेट फ्रेगमेंटेशन का बात किया हुआ है, जो उन लोगों का रूट्स का बात किया हुआ है। अभी हम लोग देखते हैं कि उन लोगों का एरियाज एक्वायर कर लिया ह्यूमन हैबिटेशन ने। अभी हाल ही में हम लोग का गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत ज्यादा एविक्शन ड्राइव किया है, जहां पे हम लोग देखे हैं कि एविक्शन के बाद ही हम देख सकते हैं कि वहां पे एलिफेंट का आना शुरू हो गया है। तो हम लोग को उन लोगों का हैबिटेट प्रोटेक्शन करना है। और दूसरा बात, अभी आप पकड़ लीजिए, ये जो हम मास मीडिया का बात बोल रहे हैं, उसमें एक बड़ा नेगेटिव चीज बन गया है सोशल मीडिया। वो लोग पॉजिटिव थिंग कभी मतलब शेयर नहीं करता है। अभी आमचांग वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी में 7 अक्टूबर 2024 को एक हाथी दूसरे हाथी के साथ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में आकर उसका एक पैर टूट गया था। फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट, हम लोग लोकल हाथी को प्यार करने वाले जैसे लोग उन पहले दिन से उसके साथ लगे हुए हैं, और विद द हेल्प ऑफ द वेटरनरियंस डिपार्टमेंट्स एंड द एक्सपर्ट टीम, द एलिफेंट इज ग्रेजुअली प्रोग्रेसिंग। लेकिन एक साल बाद क्या होता है, जब वो हाथी एक दूसरे जगह पे चला आता है, तब वहां का लोकल्स क्या करता है, उसका फोटो लेता है, वीडियो लेता है, सोशल मीडिया में डालता है, बोलता है कि डिपार्टमेंट इज नॉट डूइंग एनीथिंग। एक नेगेटिव हवा चलता है। उसके बाद क्या होता है, वहां पे जाता है आजकल का सो कॉल्ड इन्फ्लुएंसर्स जाके उन लोग का व्यूज के लिए वो लोग मोबाइल निकाल के ऐसा ऐसा हुआ, डिपार्टमेंट नहीं किया, ये क्या हो गया, वो करके वो लोग चलाएगा। उसके बाद ये जो हम लोग का सोशल मीडिया में नेगेटिव कम्युनिकेशन होता है, इसका मेन कारण एक है, डिपार्टमेंट का कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम थोड़ा वीक है। अभी 1 साल से हाथी का इलाज चल रहा है, उसको कम्युनिकेट कौन करेगा? डिपार्टमेंट करेगा। डिपार्टमेंट, आई एम जस्ट गिविंग एन एग्जांपल, ये एक एग्जांपल है। अभी पकड़ लीजिए गोलाघाट के किसी डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हाथी और ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में काम कर रहा है, क्या लेवल में काम हो रहा है, उसको कम्युनिकेशन बिल्डअप करना पड़ेगा, तभी लोगों को पता चलेगा कि ये काम हो रहा है। तो communication, positive communication, negative communication from mass media and social media is creating a nuisance for which human elephant conflict is going to something else. अभी हम ये कर सकते हैं, ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट अभी भी असम में ज्यादा नहीं बढ़ा है मेरे हिसाब से। हम कैसे कर सकते हैं? बाय द हेल्प ऑफ लोकल पीपल्स, लोकल कम्युनिटी को हमको इन्वॉल्व करना है। वो उन लोगों को पता चलता है कि हाथी कब आता है, किस रूट से आता है, किस रूट से जाता है। अगर डिपार्टमेंट, एनजीओ एंड जो कॉर्पोरेट का जो लोग है, अगर वो सब मिलके टीम वाइज अगर काम करते हैं तो हमको लगता है कि ये ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ज्यादा दिन नहीं चलेगा, ये ह्यूमन एलिफेंट को एग्जिस्टेंस में डाइवर्ट होगा। तो कम्युनिकेशन का एक बड़ा हाथ है, अगर कम्युनिकेशन को हम कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, मिसकम्युनिकेशन नहीं होता है, तो हम ये ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट को रिड्यूस करके ह्यूमन एलिफेंट को एग्जिस्टेंस में हम डाइवर्ट कर सकते हैं। थैंक यू अनिरुद्ध।
Thank you, Basudhana. So, before we conclude, I would like to take some questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But just to summarize what we discussed in two very short points, a lot of filtering in this is that we know that large-bodied animals take a lot of space, and elephants are known for long ranging as well. So, an elephant herd of about 20-30 individuals will need an area of 200-300 square kilometers for their daily requirements. So it doesn't mean that they will roam the whole area, but they use those pockets for their daily use, daily requirements. Assam, and especially most of the northeastern states, are blessed with a lot of river systems, and I would go on a limb to say that Assam still has a long range, long flowing rivers that are not barricaded by any dams. So the fact that elephants are using Brahmaputra tributaries, the Brahmaputra river itself, it spans hundreds of kilometers to move from one point to other point, is a cause for celebration, which we often don't do, but it's a fact that should bring relief to us. Second point is that while we do communicate with people, while we do use posters, education and awareness, I think tech solutions are very crucial when it comes to an intelligent animal like elephants, when it comes to managing human-elephant conflict. So these are two of the points that I would like to summarize, and we are open for questions if you have, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question to the panelists is that we talk about human and elephant conflict. So, in that context, we often see forest villages which are residing inside the reserve forest or protected forest. So, with time, the population is increasing, so the settlement is also increasing, and the deforestation is going on. So, what can we do to prevent such acts? Because sir also talked about elephant habitat fragmentation. So, how we can prevent that habitat fragmentation? We can shift the forest villages, or coming up new forest villages, or existing forest villages. We can shift that, or what we can do, the solution.
फॉरेस्ट विलेजेस जो फॉरेस्ट के अंदर रहता है वो पहले से ही है, ट्रेडिशनल ड्वेलर्स एक्ट के अंदर वो लोग वहां पे रिसाइड कर रहे हैं, तो देयर इज नो सेंस ऑफ, मतलब उन लोग को वहां से निकालने का कोई जरूरत नहीं। हम लोग को क्या करना है, हम लोग को जो है वो उसको प्रोटेक्ट करना है। ह्यूमन एलिफेंट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट क्यों होता है? अभी हाथियों को खाने के लिए जंगल में बहुत सारा चीज है, वो लोग निकल के क्यों आता है? उन लोगों का ग्रेजिंग लैंड, हम लोग एक स्पेसिफिक, जैसे एक टाइगर का एक हैबिटेट होता है, लियोपार्ड का हैबिटेट होता है, हाथियों का नहीं होता है, क्योंकि वो लॉन्ग रेंजिंग एलिफेंट्स है। अभी हम जो क्लैश देखते हैं, अभी हाल फिलहाल में एक मैंने वीडियो देखा है, क्लैश कहाँ पे होता है? क्लैश आजकल ज्यादा इसलिए देखने को मिलता है बिकॉज ऑफ दिस, मोबाइल के वजह से। मोबाइल के वजह से क्यों होता है? एक हाथी निकल के आया, मैं एक हाथ में छड़ी लेके गया उसको पीछे भगाने के लिए, मेरे दोस्त को मैंने मोबाइल दिया, तुम पकड़ो वीडियो बनाओ, सोशल मीडिया में देना है, व्यूज आएगा। ये है एक रूट कॉज। अभी जो आप हैबिटेट फ्रेगमेंटेशन का, लॉस ऑफ हैबिटेट का बात किया है, हम लोग को हैबिटेट रिस्टोरेशन भी करना है। हाथी गुंडू और सच काइंड ऑफ एनजीओस आर डूइंग दैट थिंग्स आल्सो। अभी मैंने जो बोला है, कलेक्टिवली लोकल विलेजर्स community leaders, NGOs, and different organizations, if come together, then we can solve this problem. I think you have got your answer.
Yeah, I just want to question you, rather. What do you mean by forest villages? The villages inside the forest or the forest village as such? Because forest village has a legal connotation. Because all the villages inside the forests are not forest villages, right? So forest village, the legal forest village, what we call inside the forest village, has a different legal connotation. I'm not going into that, but I assume that you are talking about people inside the forest, largely, right? Yeah. See, at some point, probably, maybe 200 years back, 300 years back, there were people everywhere, right? Everywhere at that time, of course, the population was very less, but this this protected forest, non-protected forest, cadastral area, non-cadastral. So all those classifications are not there. Basically, they're all unclassed, right? But now we have made classifications. There are revenue villages, there are non-revenue villages, there are forests, of different classes, reserve forest, protected, areas like that. But yes, legally, if you are saying that encroachment is illegal, we all know, right? Encroachment is illegal. But wherever the traditional dwellers have been, using spaces which they are there for, for ages, we have, that under the Forest Rights Protection Act, we have all those, legal requirements. Accordingly, we should, there are rights of people inside the forest also, right? There are user rights, right? But apart from that, of course, the illegal diversion of land is of course illegal, right? But then, if it is under the occupation of any private people or any, diversion of land for any large projects by government legally. So those are also, you see, when we also have, as a country, as a citizen, as a society, we also have our society, we also have this economic aspiration of the country, right? That is why a lot of forest areas are getting diverted. Every time there is a new road, there is some forest diverted into non-forest areas, right? And for that, we have laid out procedures in the country how a forest lands can be diverted to non-forest. But yes, since forest is very precious, and you know how much forest we are left with, and the needs of the animals or the rather large mammals. I'm not talking about the small animals which probably we even don't know and got extinct before we know them, right? We know elephants because it's very big. But there are, many more small creatures which we don't even know. We don't even know what ecological functions they were playing before they got extinct. So, in our constitution, there is a provisions, secure all life forms in the country, right? That way, we are all duty bound, actually, all citizens, as a citizen also. But yes, the point you have raised, I think if it is illegal, it is illegal. Whoever has done it, inside the forest or outside the forest limit. But as a habitat, yes, we should not divert. We should preserve what we have, what Bhaskar is saying. Thank you.
No, I think, we have such amazing traditional knowledge that we discount. Very simple examples, yoga. It was something that India has practiced for ages. We've not listened to what our elders have said. Now, when somebody else comes and gives us training, we are like, oh, this is an amazing way of living life, right? Likewise, organic farming. We've been practicing it for so many years. And then when somebody else comes and sells it at 4 times the price, we're willing to pay that amount. The way we live in harmony with nature, we are moving away from that. But then there are people who are willing to pay lakhs of rupees to come back and live back with nature. I think we are, instead of jumping that knowledge and discarding what we have as our heritage, if we are able to live in harmony with nature like we have done for generations and generations. I think that would be a wonderful thing to happen. Knowledge is power. I think we should be willing to open our eyes and learn from our traditional practices. That's one point. I think easier said than done because there is aspiration and there's so much glitz and glamour and communication and media and marketing and everything that's there. If you have to cut through that clutter and focus on what's important, it's not very easy, but that is important. Second thing, as a technological aspect, I think there are a lot of exercises that are being carried out. These settlements, if they want to be self-sufficient, you can tap into solar power, right? Solar plus biomass plus, there is a microgrid, which is an off-grid solution, which is a healthier solution for the forest ecosystems. So that's one technological way of looking at it. So I think no easy answers because, this entire push and pull is between human need for development at a very fast pace. Everybody wants to be rich and, living in comfort and the price that we are paying for it. So I think it is worthwhile to take a pause and to figure out what the repercussions of our actions are. हम जो कर रहे हैं उसका हम पे ही बाद में क्या इम्पैक्ट होने वाला है वो सोच के करेंगे तो अच्छा है.
The only thing I wanted to tell him is that read about how from protected areas approach. Read a book called Conservation Refugees. It's a beautiful book about how literally thousands and millions of people across Africa, because of this way of looking at conservation as a protected area approach, thousands of people and millions of people were made homeless all across the world. So and this whole approach has come, you have to think about it from the history point of view. Your question itself was framed in a way because the underlying history is missing. The underlying history for this is that Yellowstone National Park was made. There was a protected area. Now we thought about we have to build national parks. That's the only way we can save wildlife. Then we had Project Tiger in India. The first time we started making tiger reserves and national parks across India. And the approach was move with people and relocate people and then only make protected areas. We never spoke about at that extent of coexistence from the very beginning. Then from that fortress conservation to community conservation, it has taken us 1973, we are into it to 2015. It has taken us that many years just to talk about community conservation. So that's the problem. And when we are looking at things, we are not looking at FRA. And that's the reason FRA had to brought into the picture. Because of the way exploitation happened over the years of the people. And that's the reason FRA was bringing in 2006, if I'm not wrong, in 2010 when we're talking about implementation. So from the history is when you get to know about what the future can look like. So do read history.
Any mistakes, please forgive me. Thank you, panelists, for being here.